Okay, picture this. It's 8 a.m., your alarm's going off, you reach over, expecting sunlight through the window, but there's nothing. Just pitch black.
Weird.
Totally weird. You get up, check your phone, maybe the clock, it says it's morning, but outside, still completely dark, no sunrise.
That's instantly terrifying, isn't it? That complete unknown.
Exactly. And that's the core idea in the text we're diving into today. What if the sun just vanished? Poof.
Yeah.
Gone.
It's a scenario that definitely hits a primal nerve. And the source material we looked at paints a pretty vivid picture of those first few hours. The immediate confusion.
Right, like total chaos kicking in.
Well, yeah, chaos, but also just paralysis, almost. Planes grounded straight away, obviously.
Can't fly blind.
Nope. And then you'd get this massive surge on the power grid, wouldn't you? Everyone flipping on every single light they own.
Oh, for sure. And emergency services, 911, whatever, just jammed, overloaded instantly.
Completely overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And then the human brain just races, trying to make sense of it. The text mentions those first theories.
Yeah, the sort of predictable ones first, like maybe a huge power outage or a freak eclipse nobody predicted, some kind of glitch.
Exactly. Mundane explanations first.
Yeah.
But as that darkness just persists.
Then the wilder stuff starts bubbling up. The text talks about whispers, right? Like end of the world scenarios.
Mm-hmm. Or, secret government experiments gone sideways. Classic stuff.
Aliens. Gotta have aliens.
Of course. And the conspiracy theories, the text mentions, oh man, the internet would explode, Project Eclipse, or the false sun theory, even a solar hijack.
It's that quick slide from confusion into panic and speculation that's so compelling in the description.
Definitely. And while that immediate human reaction, the scramble for answers is fascinating.
Yeah.
Our focus today, using the text as our guide, is really on the physical consequences, what actually happens to the planet.
Right. Beyond the panic, the chain reaction.
Exactly. We want to trace those cascading effects, what happens after the initial shock wears off and the cold reality sets in. That's our mission for this deep dive.
Okay, let's get into it then. The text starts with something that maybe sounds minor at first, the temperature.
Right. It mentions about a 6 degrees Celsius drop. That's roughly 11 Fahrenheit by the end of just day one.
Okay, see, 6 degrees. In some places, the temperature swings more than that between noon and night anyway, doesn't it? So is that really a huge deal immediately?
Well, it is and it isn't. You're right, we experience swings like that. But this isn't a swing. This is the start of a one-way trip downwards.
Okay. It's not like it's going to warm back up later.
Precisely. That 6-degree drop signifies that the planet's main heater has just been switched off permanently. Yeah. All the energy input that drives our weather, our climate, everything, it's just stopped.
So it's the start of the freezing, the first step down.
Exactly. It's the lack of recharge, the beginning of a very, very rapid cooling process.
Which brings us to something the text really emphasizes. The sun isn't just a big light bulb.
Not even close. It's this colossal nuclear fusion furnace, as the text puts it.
Yeah.
And we often just think light, maybe heat, but its influence is so much broader. The text points out it gives us our seasons and its gravity holds us in orbit.
Right. Without it, we just fly off. We'll get to that later, I guess.
We will. But yeah, gravity, an energy for basically all life through photosynthesis, even things like tides, it's gravitational dance with the moon.
So losing the sun means losing all that, not just the light.
It means losing the fundamental operating system of Earth, essentially.
Yeah.
And the text is pretty brutal in showing how fast things fall apart.
Okay, so after that first 6-degree drop on day one, how bad does it get and how fast?
Really fast. The text says within 48 hours, just 2 days, the average surface temperature is already below freezing. 0 Celsius.
Wow, okay. 2 days.
And it keeps plummeting. Within a week, we're talking minus 17 Celsius. That's about 0 Fahrenheit.
Minus 17 C average. So like New York, London, Tokyo, just frozen solid within a week.
Pretty much. Cities encased in ice, rivers, lakes, they stop flowing, they freeze over, then freeze deeper.
And plants? Farming?
Gone. Instantly, basically. Crops die almost immediately without sunlight and with those temperatures. The text calls it a near-instant ecosystem collapse.
Horrifying. And society wouldn't hold up well under that kind of pressure, I imagine.
Not according to the text, no. It predicts, likely declarations of martial law by governments trying to maintain some control.
But people would be desperate.
Absolutely. The text mentions widespread looting kicking in, not for TVs, but for survival essentials. Groceries, obviously, firewood, gasoline, batteries, canned food, anything for warmth and sustenance.
A complete breakdown of order, just survival mode.
Yeah, and the global economy. The text points to an immediate crash. Stock markets just freeze. Literally and figuratively, I suppose.
Makes sense. Everything stops. Trade, energy flow, production, it all relies on the world working, which it wouldn't be.
It highlights how fragile that interconnected system is, doesn't it? Right. Take away the sun, and the economic structures built on its energy just crumble.
Okay, so we're cold, society's breaking down. But
Right.
then there's the darkness itself, the psychological side, that perpetual night.
Yeah. The text brings this up as a major crisis point.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine never seeing daylight again?
Honestly, no. It sounds profoundly disturbing.
It would trigger a massive mental health crisis. The text mentions a global spike in seasonal affective disorder, SAD, which is that depression linked to less sunlight in winter.
But this isn't just winter. This is forever winter, forever night.
Exactly. It's SAD on a global permanent scale and probably much worse. Because our bodies run on this internal clock, right? The circadian rhythm.
Tuned to the 24-hour light-dark cycle.
Precisely. It regulates sleep, hormone release, eating patterns, mood, everything. Without the sun as that external cue, our internal systems go haywire.
So you wouldn't know when to sleep or eat.
You wouldn't have that natural signal. The text points out your sense of time itself would get warped. It's a fundamental disruption to our biology and psychology. Severe impact on well-being, physical and mental.
Just relentless darkness and cold. But humans are adaptable, or at least we try to be. Does the text mention any attempts at survival? Any.
Last resorts.
It does. And it's interesting what suddenly becomes valuable. Remember those old Cold War era underground bunkers?
Yeah, seemed kind of irrelevant for a while there.
Suddenly they're prime real estate, according to the text. The most valuable places on Earth.
Makes sense. Shelter, maybe some supplies.
And then, nuclear-powered stuff. The text highlights things like nuclear submarines or those research stations in Antarctica. Places designed for long-term isolation and generating their own power and heat independent of the sun.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. Self-contained environments.
And it also mentions cities with a specific geological advantage. Geothermal energy, like Reykjavik in Iceland.
Because they tap into the Earth's internal heat. Exactly. So the text suggests they might become these temporary safe zones, islands of relative warmth in a frozen world, for a while at least.
Temporary and relative seem like the key words there, because even those options sound pretty fragile in the long run, based on what the text suggests.
They really are. Take high-tech greenhouses. You might think, okay, we can grow food indoors with artificial light.
Right. Hydroponics, aeroponics.
But where does the power for those lights come from? The text points at the obvious. Massive ongoing energy shortages would make them unsustainable pretty quickly.
And solar panels? Well, that's a non-starter.
Completely useless, obviously.
Yeah.
No sun, no solar power. Simple as that.
So what does work, energy-wise?
Nuclear. The text makes it clear that nuclear power becomes basically the most critical resource on the planet overnight.
Which means whoever controls the nuclear facilities.
Controls survival, potentially. The text implies huge shifts in power dynamics based on who has reactors and, crucially, the fuel and expertise to keep them running.
But even nuclear power isn't a magic bullet forever, is it? Especially with everything else collapsing.
No, definitely not. Maintaining those plants, getting fuel, dealing with waste,
Well,
all become monumental challenges in a world falling apart. And it doesn't stop the bigger environmental collapse the text describes.
which is the atmosphere and the oceans.
Yeah, this is where it gets really, really bleak.
Yeah.
Without the sun's energy holding it all together, the text says Earth's atmosphere essentially starts to, well, collapse. It would thin out, components might freeze and fall as snow, and eventually much of it would dissipate into space.
Losing our air. Okay. And the oceans.
They freeze. The text estimates within about 2 months, the surface layers globally would freeze solid.
2 months. That fast.
That fast. It would start at the poles and spread. Eventually, you'd get this miles-thick layer of ice covering the entire planet.
And marine life.
Mass extinction. Anything near the surface, anything reliant on photosynthesis like phytoplankton, the base of the food web, gone. Forests, land, animals, already gone from the cold and dark. The text says basically all surface life gets wiped out.
Is anything left?
Maybe. The text suggests that sea life, things living around hydrothermal vents on the ocean floor, might survive. They're already adapted to darkness, pressure, and getting energy from geothermal heat, not the sun.
So tiny pockets of extreme life might cling on deep down. But for us, for humanity, what does the text say happens to the people who might have survived the initial freeze and chaos?
It paints a very stark choice.
Yeah.
2 paths, essentially. Path 1, migrate underground.
Into those bunkers or caves or deep mines.
Wherever possible. Try to find or build subterranean habitats, tapping into geothermal heat or using nuclear power if they're incredibly lucky and organized. Path 2
Is extinction.
is extinction. The surface becomes totally uninhabitable, frozen, airless, dark. So it's go deep or die out.
And the Earth itself, the text paints this picture of what it would look like from, well, if you could look at it.
It's haunting, isn't it? Skies perpetually black. But the stars, they'd be incredibly bright, brighter than we ever seen them now, with no atmospheric haze or light pollution.
And no sun glare, obviously.
No sun glare. No moon either, because the moon only shines by reflecting sunlight. So just stars. And maybe, the text mentions, silent auroras caused by cosmic rays hitting whatever thin atmosphere remains.
A completely alien sky, silent, dark, frozen.
Utterly transformed. But then the text throws in another curveball, something maybe less obvious.
Which is?
Gravity. We talked about the sun providing light and heat, but it's also the gravitational anchor of the whole solar system.
Right, it holds Earth in orbit. So if the sun just disappears, not just stops shining, but vanishes.
Then its gravity vanishes too. At the speed of gravity, which is the speed of light. So 8 minutes after the light goes out, the gravity goes too.
And Earth just keeps going straight.
Exactly. The text explains we'd be flung off into interstellar space. We'd stop orbiting nothing and just shoot outwards in a straight line, becoming a rogue planet.
A dead, frozen rock hurtling through the void.
Precisely. Drifting aimlessly through the cosmos. The text even speculates about the dangers out there encountering other stars, maybe rogue asteroids, nebula, even black holes eventually. Our solar system would just dissolve.
So it's not just freezing in place, it's freezing while becoming untethered and lost in space. That adds a whole other layer of cosmic horror.
It really does. The sun's influence is profound, even down to keeping us in a stable path through the galaxy.
And, okay, let's push the speculation. If somehow, against all odds, some humans did survive underground for centuries, millennia, does the text suggest what might happen to them?
It touches on potential long-term adaptation. Speculative, of course, but based on evolutionary principles.
Like we'd change, physically.
Possibly. If you spend generations upon generations living in total darkness, relying on artificial heat or geothermal warmth, the text suggests we might evolve, maybe lose our eyesight as it becomes useless.
Like cavefish.
Kind of. Skin might become paler without sunlight. Maybe physiological adaptations to conserve heat or process different food sources available underground. We could, theoretically, become a truly subterranean species.
Blind, pale, adapted to heat and darkness. It's a pretty unsettling image of future humanity.
It is a radical departure from what we are now, losing that connection to the sky, to the surface world. Who knows what that does psychologically, too, over eons.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so after all that, utter devastation, freezing, drifting through space. The text ends on this one, kind of surprising. Final detail.
Ah, the internal glow. Yeah, that's a fascinating little point.
Even after the sun is gone, the atmosphere is collapsing, the oceans are frozen, Earth still glows.
For a little while, yes. According to the text, it's because Earth has its own internal heat source, the molten core, radioactive decay, and residual heat from formation.
So that heat is still there, radiating outwards.
Exactly. Tectonic plates might still shift slightly. Volcanoes might technically still be active under the ice, radiating faint heat. So the text describes Earth as becoming this ghost of a planet for maybe a few years.
Dimly glowing from its own internal warmth, even as it freezes and dies on the surface and flies through space.
Yeah. A faint, final ember in the dark. It's a really powerful, almost poetic and deeply haunting final image.
It really is. And it just hammers home the main point the text makes throughout, doesn't it? We just take the sun completely for granted.
Absolutely. It's light, it's heat, it's gravity. It's so constant, so fundamental that we barely register it as the thing underpinning everything.
And as this deep dive has shown, pulling from the text, if you remove it, everything else just unravels.
Sure.
And fast.
Incredibly fast. The cascade is immediate and catastrophic. From the initial darkness and cold, through the societal collapse, the freezing of oceans, the atmospheric loss, right up to being ejected from the solar system, it touches every aspect of existence.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening, drawing from all this. Considering everything the text laid out, the cold, the darkness, the gravity, the energy for life, what single aspect of the sun's influence really struck you as the most surprising, or maybe the one you realized you took most for granted? It makes you think how interconnected it all is, doesn't it? Our whole world balanced on that one star.
It certainly does. A fragile balance.
Well, thank you for joining us on this pretty chilling deep dive into the scenario laid out in the source material. It definitely gives you a new appreciation for sunrise.
Definitely does. Thank you.